Welcome back to the BraveCo podcast, men. Hey, before we get started, I want to ask you one quick question. Do you have a really clear plan to build a strong, capable, powerful leader that God's called you to be? If you don't, we have the course for you. It's our BraveCo Foundations of Masculinity and our Sexuality and Relationship course. These are free courses that we've created that you can literally go and sign up today. The best part of these is you get access to our community, right? So you can go, and if you want to run with other men who are crushing it in life, there's tons of guys there that you can jump into a course with, or we even have conferences and events that we do all year long that you can check out. But listen, I want you to go back and think about this. If you don't have a clear plan, if you don't have other guys that you're running with, if you don't have a clear pathway to how do I grow myself as a man? How do I step into my calling? What is my code, my ethos? What does it mean? How do I set healthy boundaries? How do I show up for my wife? How do I do emotion-based communication that creates deep connection in my family, in my marriage? Guys, we lay it out so simply for you. And honestly, I've seen so many men go through this and get complete healing on the other side. So we want to give that to you for free. You can go to braveco.org and sign up today. Welcome back to the BraveCo podcast, everyone. Listen, this week we are diving into our prosperity and wealth series. I know that every man alive wants to be prosperous, right? But the challenge for so many of us is maybe you didn't see a good model, you had bad teaching, bad theology, or you've never been trained. And so in this series, we want to get really practical and help you actually understand what is prosperity and what does wealth look like? What are some scriptures behind it? What's the theology behind it? But also practically, like, how do we invest money and what are good investments and how do I think about finances? And so today I am with the best man I know. So many of you have seen him before or heard him before on the podcast or other places, but my dad, Kris Vallotton, is here. And Dad, you wrote an incredible book called Poverty, Riches, and Wealth. We're just going to throw that out there.
Shameless plug, Jay.
No,
you didn't even ask me to bring it.
no, I didn't. But here's the thing. We have a whole prosperity and wealth series on our BraveCo.
There we go.
Yeah, in our BraveCo discipleship program. So phase 2 for us is 12 weeks long. And you taught your poverty, riches, and wealth, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
On our phase 2. And so literally, like, if you're loving this series and you want to go deeper, you can go to braveco.org, sign up today for free, and go through our phase 2, which is prosperity and wealth. But Dad, today we're going to dive into prosperity and what it looks like. I think from a theological standpoint, right? A lot of people in the church world look at wealth, look at money as the root of all evil, right? Mm. And a lot of people grew up, maybe a little bit like you grew up, where people who were rich or who were wealthy were people who were greedy, who loved money. They were looked at like that.
Totally.
Right? But the Bible has a lot to say on wealth.
It does.
And Jesus had a lot to say on wealth. And so I want to just like get a really good foundation for men on what does the Bible actually say about wealth and what's the difference between greed and wealth? And can you take us into a little bit about like, what is it? I mean, maybe we should start here. What does it mean to have a prosperity mindset, and what does the Bible say about it?
Well, first of all, we're a royal priesthood. And did you notice that Moses had to be raised in Pharaoh's house? Because he was going to lead a nation. Mm. And so a man who's in slavery externally cannot free people who are, let me say it again, a man who's in slavery internally cannot free people who are in slavery externally. So it was necessary for Moses to be raised as a prince so he could actually free the people of God. What I'm getting at is that it's important for us to realize that we are actually, in fact, the Bible says we are kings and priests, and that we are actually part of a royal priesthood. Mm. And so in Deuteronomy 8:18, Moses comes down from the mountain and God said, tell him this, tell him that you shall remember the Lord your God, for it's he who gave you the power to make wealth. Listen to this, Jay. that he may confirm his covenant with you. And so it was supposed to be like this.
A sign.
The sign. Nations of the world would see this Jewish nation, and they'd be so prosperous, they go, there must be a God who loves them.
Wow.
Interestingly, the word wealth there, it's 82 times translated army. It's 2 times translated excellent. It's 41 times translated valiant, and it's 18 times translated valor, and only 25 times translated wealth. Let me say this.
What does that mean?
It means that wealth is actually a power. It's actually a spirit.
Okay.
So when the Lord said to the Israelites, I'm going to give you power to make wealth, he's like, I'm going to give you an army. I'm going to give you a force, and that force is going to attract wealth to you. We might call it favor.
Yeah.
And it's might, it's valor, it's vigor, it's excellence, it's an army. And so poverty is also a power, and wealth is a power. So if wealth was inherently evil, would God use it to confirm a righteous people? Would he say, hey, I'm going to give you wealth so that the world will know that I have a covenant with you?
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say about wealth, just as an opening statement, is if you don't like wealth, you're not going to like heaven.
Right.
Because heaven is gold streets, it's pearl gates, it's incredible, right? Prosperity, right? So the point is that if wealth was inherently wicked, like let's say wealth was like adultery, or wealth was like taking heroin, would God describe heaven as wealth?
Yeah, there's not people shooting up on the streets of heaven.
No. And so, if wealth was inherently evil, would Jesus say, well, heaven's going to be like marijuana fields and opium gardens,
a whole bunch of orgies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, because that's inherently wicked. So I'm pointing out that wealth in itself is not inherently wicked. As a matter of fact, it's actually a sign. It was a sign to the Israelites that attracted the other nations. And when they saw Israel's wealth, they go, there must be a good God. There must be a good God. Because remember, the other nations all had gods, but those gods did not like them. And when they saw Israel blessed, they go, that's the God I want to serve right there.
Yeah.
Right?
I think one of the challenging things is a wealth mindset is something that's passed down.
Yeah.
Right?
It can be.
Yeah. I mean, it should be.
Or it's learned, right?
Yeah, it's learned or it's passed down.
Yeah.
And my whole point is, if you didn't grow up in a home where you were taught that, and you weren't taught how to steward wealth, then it's easy to make a case because you feel like, well, if God's not blessing me, if I don't have wealth and I'm not prospering, well, then inside of my suffering becomes my sign of righteousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we actually villainize the wealthy person, and we validate that poor must be okay. It's like people who don't believe in healing, like they don't believe in the gift of healing, or they don't believe in the gift of miracles. They're like, well, I love God and I don't do miracles, so then it must not be for me.
Yeah.
But what happens there is that as soon as I say it's not for me, whether it's this wealth thing we're talking about, or whether we're talking about, moving in miracles, and the whole spirit world works by faith.
Yeah.
So as soon as I say it's not for me, Jay, I no longer like reach to that, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to give you 5 definitions of wealth, because I think this is really important.
I love these.
Because when people hear about wealth, they go, oh, Bethel's preaching that prosperity gospel. I'm like, we are preaching the prosperity gospel, but according to the scripture, right? And so wealth is the ability, resources, strength, and wisdom to create positive outcomes in the midst of lack, poverty, or emptiness. Number 2, wealth is light in darkness, healing in sickness, prosperity in poverty, wholeness in brokenness, favor in obscurity, love for the unlovely, beauty for ashes, and victors among victims. Wealth is a can-do attitude, so it affects your attitude. A more than enough mindset, a nothing's impossible belief system. Wealth is radical generosity, it's extraordinary compassion, sacrificial giving, and profound humility. Here's the last one. Wealth is always thankful. It's never jealous, doesn't brag, celebrates others, and looks to the future. So wealth isn't just money. Wealth affects money, but you can be rich and not wealthy
Yeah, you could have money and still be poor.
and still be poor. Because, I think there's a big difference between riches and wealth. That's why I named the book Poverty, Riches, and Wealth. Because there are people that have money, but they don't have wealth. I'd point out there are people that don't have much money, but they are wealthy in God.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think if we start thinking about wealth according to the scripture, then it's going to change the way we think about wealth and whether or not we want it. I grew up, as you pointed out, I grew up in a very very poverty mindset. So we didn't like wealthy people. Like, we made up stories of why they were wealthy. It's they're probably cheating people. We voted for the political party that gave us the most, granted us the most benefits. And so I grew up, I can remember sitting around the table, my parents would be talking, I was a teenager listening, and they're like, yeah, and they'd be, they would be demeaning people that we knew that had money.
Yeah.
And yet the crazy thing is we all wanted money.
Totally.
And then the crazy thing is I got saved, and I got saved in this beautiful Jesus movement. I loved it so much, and I learned so much. But I got saved into a group of people, which I didn't understand, who also had a poverty mentality. And now they spiritualized being broke and poor. Right?
Right.
And so they're like, well, you quoted it in the opening statement. It's like the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And boy, you know what? If you really love God, you are like, Jesus didn't have a place to lay his head. Like, who are you?
Right.
And so, so I grew up in poverty, and then someone spiritualized it for me. So there was a lot of guilt around, you don't want to get a job where you're too prosperous. Definitely don't want to be prosperous, because that's the love of money thing.
Yeah. It's harder for a rich man to get into heaven
No, get through the eye of a needle, right?
than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a
Oh, yeah,
needle.
there you go. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's just so many beautiful verses
Yeah,
that if you don't actually like look at it from a kingdom perspective, just from that one verse, or even just from a poverty mindset, you go like, yeah, I don't want that. Because I think a lot of people even have really good motives too, right? Like, I
absolutely.
want to live. It's not always just born out of jealousy or envy. Like, I want to live holy. I want to live pure. I don't want things to own me. And I want to live in a way that pleases God. Or money is something that I'm going to leave behind. I'm not taking any of my money with me to heaven. And I think from that place, a lot of people come to the kingdom like that, right? And then you look at, like, so many people lose themselves in their wealth. They lose themselves in their riches, whatever, in their money. And so I think a lot of people come at it from that angle, right? Of like, I don't want anything to own me and hold me. But then the flip side of this conversation is, from what you're talking about, is wealth was supposed to be a weapon, right? It's
Exactly.
supposed to be, when you have resources, if we could forget about money.
Yeah.
And you think through, like, if I have resources, God placed trees, he placed animals, he placed minerals, placed oil. He placed things on the planet so that we could prosper.
Exactly.
Right? We take a tree, you make a house out of it. You can sell that house. You make chairs and furniture. You use it for heat, right? It all comes down to being able to be a good steward of the land, good steward of what God's given us, so that we can build. That maybe take us through, I think one of the, you probably want to take it somewhere, but what I love is the story of the talents and the minas.
Yeah.
And the analogy that's in there. Do you want to take us through like how God looks at wealth, and when we steward wealth well, what happens to us?
What's interesting is there are more parables about money than any other subject in the Bible.
Wow, that's interesting.
And so and when I tell these parable stories and I say this is how the Lord looks at that, they go, well, that's a parable. I'm like, well, wait a second. If the parable isn't true,
Yeah.
then the analogy can't be true, right?
So it's true.
So,
That's a good point.
Jesus talked in Luke chapter 19, Jesus tells the story of the talents. By the way, a talent is around $30,000, probably adjusted now for inflation, maybe more. But so he gives one guy 5 talents, one 3 talents, and one 1 talent. So you got 150,000, we got 90,000, we got 30,000. And it says he gave them according to their ability. So the guys who got the talents got them according to their ability. One guy goes out and he makes 5 more. The guy that had 5 makes 5. Guy that makes 3 makes 3 more. Guy that got 3 made 3 more. Guy that got 1, bury that sucker.
Yeah.
The Lord comes back to him and says to his servants, okay, give an account for what I've given you. And the first guy comes back and he says, Master, I have made you, you gave me $150,000. I have made you $150,000 more. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. I will put you over many things. He says to the next guy, how about you? He says, Master, you give me 90 grand. I made you 90 grand more. He says, well done, good and faithful servant. I'll put you over many things. The last guy goes, hey, you gave me 30 grand and I knew that you sowed, you reaped where you never sowed. And you gathered where you scattered no seed. And I got so afraid, I buried it. And he goes, you wicked, unrighteous slave. And he goes on to tell him, you need to be cast out of darkness. And he takes the talent, the 30,000, and he said, give it to the man who has 10. And everyone looks around and goes, wait a second, he already has 10. Yeah. Why would you give the 1 to the guy who has 10? He goes, whoever has, more shall be given. But whoever has not, even what he has shall be taken away. And I want to tell the other parable in a minute, but here's really powerful things. The first one is this. The guy who got $30,000, it was money, and Jesus goes, you should at least put it in the bank. I would have got some interest. Right. He's like, listen, if you don't want to be a risk taker, you should at least put it in the bank.
Somehow steward what you've been given.
Something.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get 100% return from the bank, but at least I would have got interest, right? Yeah. And he says, you lazy, wicked, unbelieving slave. So the guy that got wealth and did nothing with it, he's called wicked, lazy, unbelieving, and he's assigned to hell.
God dang.
No one ever says that. Yeah. No one ever. Those Christians that believe in prosperity gospel, I'm like, well, here's the anti-prosperity gospel. Right. That guy was assigned to hell. Yeah. The guys that got money and they made more money, he goes, that's a great job. I'm going to put you over things. Now, here's a powerful one. In Matthew chapter 25, it's seemingly the same parable, but it's not the same parable. He said, I gave, he gets 10 guys together and he gives them each a mina. And he tells a story about 3 of them. And the first guy, a mina is only $500. So not very much money. Yeah. And it doesn't give it to them according to their ability because it's such a little bit of money, right? Like, what are you going to do with $500? And he gives one guy, each of them one mina. And comes to the first guy and the guy goes, Master, your mina, your $500 has made you. Your money has made you 5,000. He didn't say, just to make the distinction, he didn't say I have made you. Yeah. He said your money, your 500 has made you 5,000. And he goes, well done, good and faithful servant. I will put you over 10 cities. Comes the next guy, Master, your mina has made you 5 minas. Has made you. Well done, good and faithful servant. I'll put you over 5 cities. Comes the last guy, same thing, right? Buries it. Wicked slave, unrighteous, unbelieving. I mean, can you imagine if the Lord actually went to Christians who really screwed up their finances, who just were afraid to invest in anything, and he goes, you wicked, unbelieving slave, you deserve to go to hell. We don't hear that at all. But here's the point. The only strategy for kingdom city taking is guys or gals, people who got in the Bible, who got $500 and they learned how to create an ecosystem of wealth. He did not say, Master, your $500, I have made you 5,000. He said, Master, your 500 has made you 500. In other words, the difference between the talents and the Midas, besides the amounts, is that in this case, the guy goes, I worked hard. I made you some more money.
Mm-hmm.
These guys go, I didn't have to work hard. I learned the secret of reciprocity so that your money makes money. And he goes, if you know how to create ecosystems of wealth, you should be over cities. And he puts them literally over cities. And the other thing I'd like to point out is God's reward for doing well is more responsibility.
Yeah. That's always been fascinating, right? Which is a really, really good point in a lot of areas of life. God's blessing on your life is more responsibility, not less responsibility. He doesn't go, hey, you've worked 65 years so well that now you get to retire. You get to do nothing.
Yeah.
He goes, hey, you've done such a good job your whole life. I'm going to give you more.
I'm going to give you a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think this is like so powerful. The other thing I'll say, so I want to point out, you quoted scripture, and let me just correct the way you quote it, because you quoted on purpose this way. But the Bible does not say, 1 Timothy 6:10 does not say the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yep.
It says the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. And some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith, Pearson's side. But the 3 verses later, he said, instruct those who are rich in this present world to not be conceited, fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God. And then he says, instruct them to do good, be rich in good works, be generous, be ready to share, store up for themselves treasure in heaven. And he goes on to tell them that their riches is for their pleasure. So they have to be generous. They can't trust in it, right?
Yep.
And then they're to have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that the same scripture says, for the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. His next exhortation to Timothy, Paul's to Timothy, same verse, same chapters, is tell the people who are wealthy, to not trust in it.
Yeah.
He didn't say give it away. He says be generous. Don't be, don't love your money. Don't, make sure that things don't own you, that you own them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to point out there are a lot of other things besides money that are the root of evil also.
Right.
Drug addiction, selfishness, pride, arrogance, sexual immorality.
Insecurity.
It goes insecurity, all these things. So it's like, we're like, the love of money is the root of all evil. It's like, oh no, actually the devil didn't fall because of money. He fell because of pride.
So how do we create a prosperity mindset then? Does that make sense? Like, how do you make a shift from where you were? Because again, I think there's a lot of men that are going, I want to get out of this mindset, this old mindset, and I want to step into wealth. I want to step into wealth in every area of my life. That's a goal of mine.
Yeah.
I want to be emotionally wealthy. I want to be physically healthy, right? I want to go like, man, that guy, he's got a lot. I want my friends that I want to have an ecosystem where I've got a lot of friends. I have excess. But when it steps into to money and to finances and like, how do I build that? How do people build that?
Well, one, you have to make sure that you don't have a poverty mentality, which means I don't believe I deserve wealth, so I undermine the power of wealth. Remember this, before you ever receive a dollar or a thing, you actually attract it or distract it. So poverty is like if you reverse magnets and you try to stick them together, they push out. Poverty is a power. It is not just a mindset. It's a spirit. And
that sounds very new age.
It sounds very new age, but it's actually true. And prosperity is also, it's a Holy Spirit attraction. So one of the ways we sabotage wealth in our life is to not like ourselves. So for instance, somebody gave me $30,000 many years ago when I was really poor. And then I didn't want to have any relationship with him. And when I asked God why I was avoiding this man named Eli, he said, well, Eli gave me $30,000. I said, I know that. He said, well, the problem is that you don't think you're worth $30,000, and you're afraid that if Eli got to know you, he'd be sorry he gave you the money. And then I realized, all my life I'd had 9 businesses. But the challenge is I could never be wealthy because I didn't think I was worth $30,000. I thought, well, if Eli gets to know me, he'll be like, oh gosh, he's just a human. I shouldn't have given him that money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first of all, we have to understand who we are in Jesus, not in an arrogant way, but in what he accomplished on the cross. Because as long as I think I'm a sinner saved by grace, and I'm like unworthy, my heart's exceedingly wicked, no one can know it. I am my temptations. Okay, well, all of a sudden, if I think I'm wicked and someone's treating me like royalty, I'm like, well, I'm going to sabotage that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I realize that when I received Jesus Christ, like we've talked about so many times here, right? And I became a new creation. I have a new heart and a new mind. I'm inherently righteous. First Peter says, you've received the divine nature. 1 John 3 says, nobody who's born of God sins. So when I realized like I was a sinner, but I received Christ, he didn't just forgive me of my sins. He transformed me into a new creation. And I'm actually seated on a heavenly throne. I'm not seated in a chair. I'm seated on a throne. I am a son of God, and God isn't he isn't president of presidents. He's king of kings.
Yeah.
So I actually am part of a royal priesthood. In the Old Testament, they were a priesthood. I'm not part of a priesthood. I'm part of a royal priesthood. I serve and reign with Christ on the throne. So the question is, how does royalty behave, Jay?
Yeah.
That's the question. How does royalty behave? So Jesus said all kinds of things about wealth. He said, give, and it shall be given to you. Press down, shake it together, running out all over. Okay, if I give and it's given to me, press down, shaking it all over, when you see me give, you go, oh, he's such an amazing guy. Look at how generous he is.
Yeah.
But what do you say about me when it comes back to me? He said 30, 60, and 100 fold. That's not 30%. That's 30 times.
Yeah.
So when I give and the Lord returns it to me 30 fold, maybe it takes 10 years, or he returns it to me 60 fold. In other words, he said, when you're generous, I will return to you. And he said, it'll be pressed down, shaken together, meaning and still be running all over. Like you can shake the barrel to, sift your walnuts all down to the bottom of the barrel, but I want to put more in there. Well, the challenge is when we see somebody in the condition of giving, like the beginning of reciprocity is give, we're like, so amazing. We so honor that person.
Yeah.
But when the reciprocity comes back to bless them, and it's more than they can even need, it's more than they can handle, we go, wow, that's prosperity is gospel. It's like those guys are, their love of money is the root of all evil. And we begin to shame the people who actually prospered because they listened to the Lord and were generous.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is, the boys are in a boat. Jesus has rose from the dead. He goes out to the shore. He sees the guys in the boat and he yells out to them, hey guys, caught anything? They're like, no, I've been fishing all night. Didn't catch anything. Hey, put your nets on the other side of the boat. Okay, this is what fishermen do, right? They like, you're a fisherman.
Yep.
Guys like, hey, did you guys catch anything? Yeah, we got 20 bass. Awesome. What'd you use? Hey, put your net on the other side of the boat. And I'm sure the guys are thinking, well, we have fished both sides
They're
of the boat.
tired. They've done it all night. Yeah.
Right. They've been fishing all night. But they put the net on the other side of the boat. They don't know it's the Lord. And all of a sudden they catch so many fish, actually 156. They catch so many fish, but it says, and yet the nets weren't broken. And when John sees the abundance of fish, which by the way, they're in the fish business, so we're talking about money, he goes, it must be the Lord. And Peter gets so excited, he puts his coat on and jumps in the lake and swims to the shore.
It tells me he wasn't planning on coming back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm taking everything I have and I leave him.
That's a good point,
I'm
right?
gone.
But my point is this. If they would have put their net on the other side of the boat and they caught like 3 minnows.
Yeah.
And they go,
thanks for the tip.
it must be the Lord.
Yeah.
He's so frugal.
Yeah.
But when John saw the abundance, he goes, that must be the Lord. When it was more than they could have ever caught, when the power of wealth was extended to their business, so those fish were attracted to the voice of the Lord. The army went out, so to speak.
Yeah.
The valiant army went out, Deuteronomy 8:18, and gathered those fish into their net. John goes, that's got to be the Lord. That does not happen with human effort.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, Pete, that's got to be the Lord. Prosperity was a sign of God's world.
Yeah. It's incredible, honestly. It is.
So powerful. So, I feel like, you asked a question 10 minutes ago, like, how does prosperity begin? Well, one, you made Jesus Lord of your life.
Yeah.
Not wealth. Secondly, you find a place to trust him in everything. Thirdly, you demonstrate trust and faith through your generosity. You give. And if the Bible said receive and give, then my prosperity would be directly determined by the Lord. I have to wait to get so I can give. But he said, give and it shall be given to you. And then he said, by your measure, it'll be measured to you, and even more will be measured to you in return. So think about it. If I give with a shot glass, here's my my 3 measures of wheat. The Lord says, give me your shot glass by your measure. Here's 3 gold nuggets.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, here's my cup. Here's my cup of 10 pieces of grain. God goes, give me the cup. Here's your measure. Let me fill that with gold.
Mm-hmm.
But if I start measuring buckets, barrels, and dump trucks, God goes, let me use your measure and I'll measure it back to you.
Yeah.
So I get to determine when I prosper, and I get determined by what measure I prosper. And he's not measuring how much I give. He's measuring how much is left after I give. For example, the woman that Jesus is watching in the temple, and all these wealthy people are giving an offering. But a woman comes up and she drops 5 cents in the offering. And Jesus stops the offering. By the way, you don't think Jesus cares about offerings?
He was watching it.
Absolutely does, right? And he stops the offering and he said, whoa, this lady put in more than you all, because she put in all she had. So it wasn't what she gave that determined how generous she was. It's what she had left. And when she gave that 5 cents or 10 cents or whatever that was, and that's all she had, the Lord said she gave more than the millionaire who just wrote a check for 10 grand, because he had $990,000 left.
Yep.
She had nothing left.
Yep.
And he goes, she gave more because of what she had left.
Yeah.
So we say not equal giving, but equal sacrifice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there's 2 things that really stand out to me that feel really important. One is, of course, giving sacrificially.
Yes.
To start to break that poverty spirit.
Absolutely.
The next one to me is learn to be a steward. And so, which isn't just, I'm not just giving to be a steward. That's just, to me, that's one side of it. The other side is learning how money works, right? Learning how ecosystems work.
Yep.
So how do I take money and make money?
Yes.
How do I take this thing and invest it in a way that grows and builds, and which I'm not fully there yet. But what it says to me is it's a difference between those 2 parables.
Yes.
That you're pointing out.
Yeah.
Is when you learn how to create ecosystems that build, that scale.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the easiest way to say it in our culture.
Build capacity.
Yeah. That scale. Well, you are now able to step into another level of wealth, of wisdom, of responsibility. And that feels really important.
Well, the parable in Luke 19 is a parable of hard work. And those guys, he said, Master, your your talent, I have made you 5 more.
Yeah.
Your 5 talents, I have made you. I have made you. I worked hard. I stewarded well. And the Lord goes, that's amazing. So Proverbs, there are so many Proverbs about wealth. Proverbs says, he who sleeps in the harvest is a fool.
Mm-hmm.
But he who works diligently will be rich. Look at how many times Proverbs says, will be rich. It's most often related to diligence, hard work, sowing and reaping, making sure you don't sleep when there's a harvest, right?
Yeah.
And so let's think about 21st century. A harvest isn't necessarily that you're a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's summer, when the getting gets good, you go out there and you get it, right? So that parable is about diligence, it's about hard work, it's about knowing the season, making sure that you're sleeping in the winter so that you can be diligent in the summer. You know, you have to have a time rest. It's about those kind of rhythms. But Luke 19 is not, he said, Master, your Midas have made you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't want to say that guy didn't work hard.
Yeah.
But his prosperity wasn't related to his hard work. His prosperity was related to he understood the market.
Mm.
He understood how money makes money. He understood how to invest so that he, Psalms, I think it's 127 says, he gives to his beloved even while they sleep. Isaiah 60 says, Isaiah 60 says, your gates will be open continually. They'll not be closed day or night, that the wealth of nations will come to you. Did you get day or night? They will not be closed day or night, that the wealth of nations will come to you, kings leading their procession. Like, oh, this guy is not working around the clock.
The gates are open.
Continually.
People are coming,
bringing wealth, but they're bringing it while you're sleeping. What is that? You're learning how money makes money. You're learning the power of wealth. And that sometimes means you learn how to invest. It means that you learn how to lead a company well so that your employees and your team is actually creating wealth. You're learning how to meet a need, how to discern a need that no one else can discern so that you invest in it and then that wealth grows its own wealth. There's also all kinds of other stewarding points. Like you said, generosity is the kindergarten of stewardship.
Yeah.
But it's not all stewardship.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, if I invest, he's going to invest back to me. But when I invest in a stewardship kind of way, and I plant a crop and it prospers, right? And then I got to be careful I don't go eat all the seed.
Yeah.
But I learn how to say, okay, this crop right here, let's say I plant 100 acres because that's all the seed I have. And I'm like, okay, when I harvest that 100 acres, if I go eat 80 acres worth of that seed, I'm only going to plant 20 acres.
Yeah.
So the next year, maybe I'm only going to have 100 acres again, right? I'm only going to have that much seed.
Start the poverty cycle.
Yes, I start the poverty cycle again. But one of the ways that I come into prosperity is there are seasons of sacrifice where I go, we're going to eat less, we're going to plant more. Like, so I'm going to sow more seed. And that means some of the seed that I would eat, some of it I would use for food, I'm going to actually plant for the next 3 years on purpose. I'm going to reduce what I need to live on so that I could plant more seed.
It's the parable, it's the message that says, those who sow with tears will reap with joy.
Exactly.
Right. They're sowing and crying because it's a sacrifice.
That's right.
Knowing that in the end, right, they reap with joy because they're getting more than what they put into the ground.
There's sheaves coming with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exactly right. So it's written in a parable in agriculture that the man is sowing with tears because he understands that he's sowing seed that his family actually needs to eat.
Yeah, they're hungry.
But if he doesn't sow that, he has to, let's say he plants 30 acres, but he actually needs 10 acres of that seed to eat. But if he doesn't plant the 30, and he only plants 20. Next year, poverty, next year, he only has 10 acres worth of seed.
Yeah, it's true.
And so he's sowing with tears.
Yeah.
He's sacrificing, right? He's making a sacrifice. He's looking to the future. He's not living paycheck to paycheck. He's putting money away so that he can get to the cycle where money makes money, where he's no longer working for money, but money's working for him.
Yeah.
When you can learn how money works for you, that is the ultimate on the side of money, but it works in every area. That is the ultimate sign of wealth and prosperity.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, for me, I've just looked at my life and gone, what areas have I stewarded really well in?
Yeah.
So, friendships have been one of those.
Emotional health.
Yeah, emotional health has been another one. I have someone right now that I take counseling appointments just to train her.
Yeah.
So I take married couples, and I'm pouring in, I'm sowing into her. And those are the areas that have always been easy for me to go, I want to grow in this. I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to sow. Money and wealth, wealth around money has been a hard one for me. I've just kind of left it alone. And I've talked about it a lot on this podcast of where I had to make a shift 3 years ago and go, man, I'm constantly on empty. I mean, guys would give me hunts. They would go, come hunt with me in Alaska. And I couldn't afford the plane ticket there.
Yeah.
Like it's a $20,000 hunt. I can't afford the gas to drive to the airport.
Yeah.
And you don't want to tell them that, you know?
Yeah.
And coming to a place where I have to go like, hey, I'm stuck in this spot, not because I don't have money, because I don't have a value and a plan to be prosperous in this area.
That's right.
I've just left it alone. And so for Lauren and I, the last 3 years has been a season of us working hard to learn first how to, okay, I'm going to work hard, and this thing that I've worked hard to do has made me 2 times.
Yeah.
Has made me 3 times. And now we're starting to ask the question, okay, how do I get out of being paid for my time?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I work 8 hours, I get 8 hours of pay.
Yeah.
I work 12 hours, I get 12 hours of pay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a starting point.
That's the diligence of Proverbs. And that's the 19th chapter of Luke.
Yeah.
That is good. Amazing.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. But the step beyond that, which we're talking about and we're building and we're looking at, is how do I invest in something where I can be sleeping, I can be on vacation, and it's growing, it's building, it's gaining momentum.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is part of why we started a podcast. It's part of why we built marriage courses. Part of why we did those kinds of things, starting to think through, like, how do I sew something into a little bit of work here, but a lot more return in the long run.
Yeah, and people are watching your videos while you sleep. The gates are open continually. They'll not be closed day and night. They're watching them in Australia while you're sleeping. People are paying a nominal fee to actually learn how to have a better marriage.
Yeah.
They're learning how to move in the gifts of the Spirit, and they're learning spiritual things, and they're returning natural things to you. And it's happening while you sleep, because the internet allows you to do business while you sleep. I want to point 2 things before we leave.
Okay.
Let's talk about the kindergarten.
Yeah.
First of all, you're never going to build wealth without making God your partner.
That's good.
So I love T.D. Jakes with the best illustration. He had a whole grocery bag of dimes, and he has this massive, I don't know how many, this sanctuary, well, it's thousands.
Tons, yeah.
And he's walking through his sanctuary with his mic on, and he's throwing dimes into the congregation. And he's saying, God would be for 10 cents, you can make God your partner. He's talking about the tithe.
Yeah.
And so God says in Malachi, he said, why do you rob me? And they said, how are we robbing you? He says, of tithes and of offering. And he said, if you bring the tithe into the storehouse, I will open up the windows of heaven. I'll pour out a blessing you can't contain. And the point is that for 10%, you can make God your partner.
Yeah, best partner
ever. Listen, if Bill Gates came in and to your house and he said, Jason, listen, let's be partners. First of all, I'm Bill Gates. I have made billions of dollars. So I know way more than you do. I'll put in, you give me 10% of anything I help you build, and you
Yeah.
can keep 90.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Mamma mia, you'd be
I'll
an
do it.
idiot to
I'm
not take
in.
that, right?
Yeah, I'm in.
So the first thing is that if you make God your partner, you open up the door to, I'll pour out a blessing on you can't contain.
Yeah.
And you initiate the power to make well. The second thing is, and again, there's many more, but we're talking about stewardship. Take 10% more. So you took 10% and you gave it to the storehouse, which is, I think of the church where you're getting your spiritual food. You take 10% more and you set it aside. You don't live on it. So you don't eat all your seed.
Mm-hmm.
It's called delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you're asking, listen, I live on 100%. Where would you're telling me I'm supposed to live on 80%. I'm saying, like, we want to teach our children this, right? Our grandchildren. So our children, they grow up. If they get $100, they live on 80. They take $10 and they put it in a bank account, and this is my wealth bank account. This is going to grow.
Yep.
And I take the other 10% and I give it to the storehouse. I made a partnership with God, and I let that $10 out of 100 grow. I just let it grow. And you're like, what am I going to do with it? Well, first of all, you made God your partner. So I'm not saying you paid to tap into wisdom, because that sounds so evil and wrong, and I don't think it's true. But generosity attracts the presence of God. So you've opened the door to Bill Gates, 10 times more, 1,000,000 times more brilliant than Bill Gates.
Yep.
And you've tapped into that wealth. And now you're putting away, you're delaying your gratification. You're not living according to your means. You're living below your means. And you're building money. First, you're building money. We're not really building wealth yet. We're building money. Now we get $1,000 in there. We go, okay. We started a school business many years ago, and I gave everybody in the school, we had 37 students. I gave them all $100. And I said, we're going to be in school for 9 months. And whoever ever makes the most with this $100. In fact, the first thing we did is said, I'm giving you 30 days to see who can make the most money with this $100. Well, you know what? If you have $100 and that's all you have, you're like, man, I'm going to just go get some donuts and whatever, But what if you took that $100 and you said, could I double that? I'll bet you that pretty much anybody, if the goal was to double that $100, let's say in 60 days, I bet every single person could do it.
Yeah.
You go to a garage sale and buy an old dresser for $10.
Restore it.
Put $20 in it, sell it for $100. It's like, what I'm getting at is we often don't think that we have enough to actually build wealth. But I bet you could take that 100 and make it 200. Then the question is, well, if you can take 100 and make it 200, could you take 1,000 and make it 2,000? And you start, and the reason why I gave them that money is because I wanted them to think about ideas. Like, I wanted to change their mindset to, how do I take this 100 and make it 200 in 60 days?
Yeah.
Every single one of my students did it. Every single 37 students doubled their money.
Yeah.
Why? It's not hard. But you have to think. You have to think about doubling your money instead of, well, we have an extra $100. Let's go out with the kids and have dinner. So you live on 80%. You make God your partner with 10. You take another $100, you put it in the bank. And of course, it's gaining some interest. Interest is pretty low right now, but it's just sitting in the bank. It's gaining some interest. And then you start thinking, okay, when I get to $1,000, I'm going to make it my goal to take that 1,000 and double it in 3 months. What am I going to do? I don't know. I'm going to a little internet business. I'm going to buy a lawnmower and go mow lawns. I mean, there's 1,000 different things, but it's going to be fun because my goal is to take this 1,000 and make it 2,000, right? And that's the beginning. If you will just do that, let me just say this. If you will just do that, you will begin to develop a wealth mentality because you're actually thinking about it. You're actually thinking, how do I take 1,000 and make it 2,000 in 90 days?
Yeah.
And that pressure, or can I say for guys, that competition to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And if you lose that, you're not starving because you're living on 80%.
Yeah, you didn't take something that you had to eat.
No.
Okay,
So
yeah.
then you wait and you're building up. You take, okay, I made an investment. God, it wasn't a good one. I didn't actually lose money. I actually gained wisdom. And so now I wait for a little while longer. I build up another 1,000 and I go, I may not know what to do, but I know what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the beginning.
Yep. It's fantastic. I love the practical steps to walking in and beginning to go, how do I break poverty mindset in my life, but how do I build a wealth mentality
Exactly.
and grow? Guys, thank you so much for watching this. My challenge to you is to do that, is to take a look at what is the mindset that you have around wealth and prosperity. And even just as practical as going, what am I living off of right now? Am I sewing in financially to the place that I'm getting fed? Am I putting anything aside practically that that I can then invest? And if you're not, then the first step is to maybe you have to cut back something, or maybe you have to not go and eat out as much, but becoming a steward over the wealth that you've been given,
Yeah.
so that then you can have a way to continue to sow in and allow God to bless you and to become a partner with you. Love you guys. Have an incredible week. We will see you next week on the BraveCo podcast.
God bless.
Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.